that was something else. Okay, let me double check what's happening. Chat rate. Okay, we have Tammy, Jake, Alex. Everyone is here. Um,
I'm
yep,
just
it's a.
laughing because I slowly stopped like taking one-on-ones for now.
Oh,
But
uh, yeah. What's up, everybody? This is John from Coding Addict, and welcome to another Power Hour live stream. And as always, I'm joined by one and only Mr. Paul Bratlovsky, the mastermind behind YouTube channel Coding After 30. Again, Paul's channel is Coding After 30. How are you, Paul? And before you answer, I just want to congratulate you on a milestone. For those of you who don't know, Paul just reached 4,000 subscribers on YouTube, and I'm very, very happy because, yeah, like I always have been saying, like I really like his channel because if you really want to see the life of developer, not the whatever version it is that you mostly see, go check out his channel and his content. How are you, Paul?
yeah, very good. And thanks for that, John. Like I really appreciate it. And you've been like a good catalyst for helping me continue to grow on YouTube and, loving every minute of chatting with you on the Power Hour live. Fantastic. The best,
Definitely,
especially when we talk
definitely,
about
definitely.
Scrappy.
We look like everyone enjoys having you here, and hopefully we'll be able to continue this. Yeah, if you want to check out some cool content, be sure to visit Paul's channel, Coding After 30. Like I said, he has a bunch of cool content like live streams, like building custom projects, and like I also already said that if you want to see the actual life of a developer, what it's like, what it's like to to get there, what it's like to actually work there, go check out the channel and smash the like button to help with an algorithm. Before we go into weekly tips and fails, just quick updates. Yeah, yeah, basically, if you're wondering what's up with my voice, no, I don't have COVID. No, I'm not sick. Just once in a while, I need to get the shots for the vocal cords. So I got one 5 days, no, Friday, so 3 days ago. So usually that's why it sounds like this and whatever. And I was about to kind of weasel out of this one, but but then I remember that Paul sent me some time ago. He sent me a video by what's his name, David
David
Goggins.
Goggins, yeah, basically.
Yeah, if you if you ever wonder, go and check out the most funniest video ever. I'm not gonna repeat. There's a bunch of swear words in it, but
Yeah, it's good.
like if I don't know, I might put it in the description the link and everything. But go and check it out. And then I was like, you know what? I just need to man up and we need to power through.
Yep.
So, as far as another update, we will like next Monday is gonna be like scheduled show, but then we're doing not January 3rd, we're doing January 7th, which is gonna be the Friday. So then we're switching to Fridays at 6 o'clock and all that. So that's gonna be the switch basically right after New Year. As far as weekly tips and fails, I have this one. So if you need like mock data, there's this very very cool site. It is called Macaroo. I will share that in the description, and also I already put it in the comments and everything. So it's really cool that you get like tons of options for type. You literally, if you go there, you can get types even as niche as like Mongo IDs or Mongo dates, and if you want, for example, fake I don't know cities, right? They give you fake cities, and that's just the start. Again, just go there and check it out. It's definitely a very very cool option. And what's also really nifty that you get bunch of options as far as format. So you can start with JSON, you can get the SQL, you can get Firebase, and again on and on and on and on. So I needed that for the MERN course, and again I couldn't be happier with the result. Really awesome. What about you,
Nice.
Paul?
Like one tip I give for today, because it's something that everybody knows, except if you don't use it all the time, you forget the idea that objects are passed by reference. And so if you have an array of objects, right, and you use that map method to clone your array, if you do something to that object, like reassign, um, like whatever, a key value pair, it is going to get reassigned in that previous array that you copied, because you have to clone the object, not reassign it. And even though you're like, oh, I'm doing map returns a new array. Yeah, you'll get a new array, but the objects are still held by reference to whatever array you copied from. And so it's something that, like, like I figured out right away, because I'm like, oh yeah, objects pass by reference. But like, I'm like, oh, if you don't do this all the time, it's gonna be hard to catch at the beginning, because you're like, what's going on? Like, why is this different? You know. But yeah, so that's my pro tip. You know.
Do you want to hear a funny story about that?
Yeah. Go
So the
ahead.
first e-commerce store that I ever built, and the idea was exactly the same. You have an array, and then when you add the item to the cart, you add it as an object, and then you update whatever add item the value. I mean, what's the name? Remove or whatever, right? And
Yep.
of course, by the time I'm done with the project, I wasn't cloning the the objects,
Yeah.
so you start testing and everything just goes bananas. Took me like I would say like half a day, good half a day to understand where
Yeah.
the error was.
to to be honest, like, I just had that insight because I was looking at the thing right away. If I walked away from the table, or I switched to look at something different and came back, I could see it taking like a big part of the day to troubleshoot something like that. Because yeah, I feel like I got lucky. But I could definitely see that being a issue for somebody doing it and starting out or working with it. Yeah,
But
it's
that's
crazy.
definitely one of those when you learn, you're like, yeah, of course. I mean, I
Yeah, yeah,
understand,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, 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 exactly.
And
In
then
practice, you're like,
when it catches you, you're like,
yeah, like, oh,
oh, I
what?
didn't see that coming.
Yeah,
It's definitely one of those examples that's why sometimes this is a different little bit side note, but that's why sometimes when you're learning something, let's say complex, I would say, right? Um, maybe something niche, maybe let's say in JavaScript land that could be something about classes. I really never stress about something, let's say understanding it fully, unless I have like the real way how I can implement that. Because in my opinion, I mean, you can drill the theory all day long,
yeah,
unless you'll have the example where that is happening, and you have to actually address it. It's not gonna stick in my head anyway. So I'm
yeah,
gonna,
hundred
yeah, I
percent.
read through, but I don't like lose my sleep over it and whatever. So, and that's just not. I mean, that could be, I don't know, something very very specific about Redux or whatever. Unless you really like see that thing like popping up, then I'm just like, okay, so it is what it is, and I guess I'll figure out.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
So as far as the main theme, we have actually pretty short one again. That was kind of a little bit of purpose, I guess. How much JavaScript you should know before starting React. And again,
All of it.
and again, we have, if you want to, I'm gonna leave in description the thread for the main themes. If you want to go there, add your own, like the ones that currently have. That's definitely an option. For me, it comes down to fundamentals. So you should know variables and functions, because at the end of the day, components are functions. So you should know how to pass the parameters, how to, let's say, do some kind of calculations inside of the function. What happens if you have the return, like meaning like, what kind of values you're getting back with the return. And then definitely array methods, because map is going to be one of the ones that you'll use constantly pretty much in React. Reduce and filter for sure as well. And then, I mean, like we have talked about it, you cannot really these days. It's kind of hard to see a JavaScript application without the fetching data part. So you should definitely know how to fetch data and use async await and ES6 modules, because I mean, eventually you'll have probably bigger projects than just few components. Yeah, and the more projects you build with just vanilla JS, the better you will feel. But don't. I wouldn't say going 3 years just learning vanilla JS and then starting React. For me, it's similar to Paul, where I actually like when I build something in React, I like to just test it out and I like to go back to vanilla JS land. So I constantly always like just keep testing. I mean, again, I'm not talking about like you need to understand not every big project I rebuild in vanilla JS, but let's say some feature. I'm always interested. Okay, so how that would work in vanilla JS and what would be the obstacles and what I would need to do differently. And that way, you constantly keep going back to vanilla JS. So I'm definitely not saying that you need to spend 3 years learning out, but I mean, again, you just need to be open going back and kind of diving back into vanilla JS land. What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, 100%. And I know we talked about array, and because of my doohickey with the objects, I think like understanding some of the basic stuff with objects, like not all of them, but like object entries, object keys, has value or whatever. That one, it has own property, and what else is there? There's like one more object assign or something like that. Just the basics, so you could iterate through the object, and if you have to do that, or copy an object, or obviously you could copy by destructuring as well. But I think that's also like you know a little bit of that definitely need for sure.
I mean, if you're going like, let's say if you want to be more specific, you can say the spread operator for sure, because
Right.
that's how you'll be passing the props, the structuring, because that's how you'll use to get the props. But for me, that kind of goes into that kind of ES6
Okay. Yeah.
thing,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
where
Yeah. Yeah.
the more you know of that, of course it's always going to be better. Yeah, but that would be kind of, I guess, the very basics. Yeah, so we're
Yeah.
actually 11 minutes in, and now just guys just slam us with questions.
Yeah. Yeah. The one thing I was just going to add to that, kind of like coming and bringing up the point where unless you experience the problem yourself and struggle with it to fix it and then fix it and solve it, where like that's where like I agree with you, majority of the learning happens. And so if someone just goes from one tutorial to another tutorial, I mean, there's nothing wrong with doing tutorials. You got to learn the basics somehow. But I think after you complete one tutorial, like a good example would be, or even like halfway through a tutorial, try to recreate some of those things yourself. um, and play with it, so you're having or giving yourself opportunity to mess up, which will force you to try to troubleshoot and fix things. And you know working on my own, that's literally the pattern I follow. I try to make something, then it breaks, and then I spend some time fixing it, and it just seems like that's something so important to get comfortable with in terms of learning JavaScript, and moving to React, learning React, and actually building stuff.
Yeah, for me it would be like, I think we already talked about it, but for me, like, I think the very very first step is just trying to recreate the project without basically looking at it.
Yeah,
And
100%.
one thing that I would suggest, don't focus too much on CSS, because what I noticed in the beginning when I was learning React, that I wanted to make all the projects look good, but that wasn't the main goal, that actually what I needed to do. And then what ends up happening for a lot of people, they just spend tons and tons of times on CSS, where they, in the beginning, I think they should spend way more on understanding the logic. Once you understand the logic, you always figure out how to add that CSS,
Yeah,
tweak that
make it
border or
better. Yep.
whatever. But for me, the biggest one is always start with the fact that, okay, I see how he, for example, made a site where he pulled the data from somewhere, he iterated over, he
Yep.
displayed whatever cards and whatnot. And then when you click, let's say it goes to a separate page, and then that's another request. So write down those steps, everything that's happening, and try to implement it yourself. Again, first time it's not going to happen. Totally normal. Second time, you look it up. You third time. And then by that fourth or whatever time, trust me, like once you go through that process one time, this will be like very like great for you, because next time when you need to start doing something yourself, let's say you just come up with your own project or whatever, it's going to be much more easier. Because I mean, one thing about those, like, you should work on your own projects, but the problem is that a lot of times, like, the ideas, right? So people don't want to copy, somebody else's, but at the same time, I mean, blog is a blog, e-commerce site is an e-commerce site. I mean, the chances of you coming up with unique project, just like, oh, I just started learning React and now I'm just gonna build this thing that no one ever saw. I'm not being trying to be negative, but it's like the chances of that are slim.
Yeah, but to that point, it's like at least like when you build an e-commerce site, build it from scratch, rather than oh, I did this amazing course by John Smilga, and then I'll just put it on my portfolio, which is perfectly fine, except like you learned and you used the project that you created. You know what I mean? Not you building something from scratch. So I look at like courses like a learning tool that will allow you to not get lost when you decide to build something on your own, because you have reference material that you could get back to, but you still have to like struggle and build something from scratch. And it's funny, like I had another point which I think was more important than this one, but now it just like disappeared. I'm like, where did it go? It's funny.
Well, if you remember, then
Yeah, no,
uh,
I'll
think
I'll
about
put it like
it.
I'll throw it back. I'll put it in something along the lines of uh something not being.
No, for me,
Yeah,
like
I'll come back.
the
Yeah,
biggest key for my like what I've been trying to implement in my courses, and how I always try to learn myself is this. And this is again, this I didn't come up with this. I believe I read that one in multiple books, but the one definitely about the habits. Remember we talked about atomic habits, when he talks about like the best way of learning is when you all the time, let's say, make it like 10% more challenging. So that way you're not going to get bored, and you're
yeah,
also not going to get overwhelmed. So you look at it like a ladder, right? So you learn the most basic thing. I don't know, maybe you have a button inside, like in center of the page, you click it and then something happens. So the next one is you add one step to that, more, and again, try to. What I always say is don't focus on CSS, because, like I said to you about the Mern, where I spent way more time on just making that project look
yeah,
decent, the actual logic, and I think it's very bad for somebody who's just starting out, because they're just kind of a little bit wasting time. Now, I'm not saying you won't need to know CSS, but like focus on one thing, focus on that logic, focus.
yeah,
The site can be pretty ugly. You can
yeah.
always add that CSS, but try to like kind of just stick with it. Otherwise, you're kind of like going, okay, I'm fetching the data and then I'm adding CSS, fetching data CSS, and
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think it's the best approach.
That's exactly the point I wanted to make, is that, somebody looked at my website that I'm building on my Tuesday night live stream. They're like, it's so ugly. You're like not putting any effort to design. I'm like, yeah, because I want it to work first. I want the functionality to be there. I want the logic to work, because for CSS, like once the site works, I could easily write the CSS or get a theme and just theme my like application with whatever, or even like go to theme forest, look at some designs, and just like write the css to match the designs that I find. To me, it's like, like someone who knows how to build a car versus someone who just paints the car. It's like, okay, you need to know I said the like, so if you're a web designer, obviously understanding UI principles, design principles, being able to write good css is makes sense. But if you're a developer, you need to develop things. You need to write the logic that handles, the UI changes, especially if you're like a front end developer, and or starting to dip yourself into like back end development. That's the most important part. And for me, like my boss at work, like he cares how the site works, but I'm literally like, that's means nothing to him if the site doesn't work. So for us, like the most important thing is like, does the site do what it does? And I feel like as a web developer, instead of spending 80% of your time trying to work on css, spent 80% of the time working on the functionality, the JavaScript, React, and then, the CSS will come, but it's definitely not important. And I feel like I feel your sentiment of making sure that you work on functionality first. And that's a great point. And that's why up to this point, my projects looks like crap, and I don't mind, because it
But
works.
this is where those throwaway projects come into play. Remember,
Yep.
we always talked about that. Like we both agree that only pretty much your last three projects should be on your portfolio to begin with, right? So if you build those throwaway projects along the way, don't worry about like literally. Like sometimes only thing I do is I just add the margin around, because it's annoying if everything, because I use the default styles, and it's just annoying if everything is in a corner. It's kind of hard for me to see. That's it. That's
Yeah.
all I do. Just add some
Yeah.
HTML. I want to see the logic working. And then I
Yeah.
understand the logic and I move on. I'm like, okay, so I get this one. And then there's going to be a big project where I'll spend a little bit more time on CSS. I'll make sure that it works. And also it looks decent. And then you can put that one.
What?
That's
Yeah.
kind of my.
Yeah, what's funny, like even when you do work on the logic, you're like, I'm gonna do this myself. You're gonna find a situation where you're like, wow, the thing that I thought was going to be simple, it's actually not that simple. And like, I'll give you an example. So my blog that I just working on my project, it uses Markdown, and so from Strappy, you know, or whatever, like it's easy to write it in Markdown and then get it to your front end, parse the Markdown, looks great, and then you could style this CSS, nice.
Strappy entered the
But
conversation.
but from the standpoint of being able to write the blog that is parsed to like Markdown, where you're able to do it with like rich editor like you see in all those blogging sites where you're like, oh, make this bold, make this a header, not like that's hard to do, like because you have to add all that functionality and then you have to parse it to like from like whatever, it's a lot. And so I was like, man, like luckily I found a library that does that because I don't want to deal with it. But I was like, there's no depth of like the the rabbit hole you could get into by developing stuff, because at some point you got to be like, okay, how much of this do I want to build, and like another example is like building drag and drop where you could just find a library that helps you do that. But I was like, man, like I when I was like visualizing this application, I didn't think that far ahead, and luckily I found a great library that was nice to implement. But part of me is like, as a developer, should I be able to know how to do that eventually? And so, like, do I need to create my own Markdown parser? And so I'm like, oh God, when does this end? Like, you know. And then I have another question, but it's fine. Well, let's see what other questions people have, and then
No, no, no. I just want to add quickly. Sorry. Yeah, Markdown, what you just talked about, oh, that is a massive rabbit hole because I tried on two, not tried, I implemented two Gatsby projects. One coming from Contentful, so
yeah,
it was the same deal. You add the pretty much the stuff there, and it's exactly like you say because you can get the library that even works with Contentful, but you still need to go one by one. Okay, if this is the heading, what am I doing, and blah blah blah.
yeah,
And then the second one was the MDX. So that's when you
yeah.
can actually shove the components in there. So
Yeah.
not only you have the blog, but and I built it and everything. But to tell you honestly, what I walked away from was like, I don't know, if I were to start blogging, probably you wouldn't bother with that. To
Yeah.
really tell you honestly, because I've been using right now, as I'm building Mern, I have been kind of, this is what I'm doing differently in this project as a note. And by the way, there's also something that I want to tell you about Pern. But during this project, what I've been doing, I write down the README, and then before every project, I pretty much showcase all the steps we're gonna take. So if the person wants, they can move ahead and do it themselves. So and technically, when I look at it, if I add few lines of basically text, it comes out like a blog post, you know. And I've been writing all of that in Markdown. And to tell you honestly, the result, I wouldn't probably mess with MDX. Not I like good thing is once you set it up, it works.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just the benefits. I understand it's nice to set up the component in your actual blog post, and there might be use case. No, no, I mean, there's definitely use cases, but not for me. Kind of.
Yeah. 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 No, I don't think I'm gonna go as far as like doing like MDX, but Strappy, it has automatic like a nice, you know, editor where you write things and you just have a button, make this bold, make this a header, make this whatever, and it automatically will convert it to Markdown. And so you don't have to write the blog with Markdown. And so in my case, like in my front end, I'm like, okay, like I want something as easy as Strappy does it. That's like similar to WordPress, like whatever page builder, whatever they use. But then all that stuff, if you're building from scratch, is just hard and it all takes time. And I was like, as a one man show, instead of focusing all my attention trying to figure out how to even do that, I'm like, let me find a library that is there. And so um, it's like, but that's kind of the struggle that I have. It's like how much of the stuff you build from scratch and how much of the stuff you like implement that somebody else built. And like there's the purist and then there's the people that say don't recreate the wheel. And I feel like you know whatever problem you have, understand what it takes to solve it and understand your time constraint, And if you want to actually deploy your application at some point and you're doing it by yourself, you do have to make compromises where it's okay to be like, okay, I'm going to use this npm package because somebody already made it, someone already tested it. It kind of just works rather than, okay, let me learn how to do this myself.
Yeah, that for me also is that as far as the markdowns and MDXs, I real like once I built those two projects, I realized that it really didn't add any benefit to me as far as, I mean, I understand how to set it up, but it wasn't like, let's say if I were to spend that 2 months on Node or whatever, I think that that would have been way more beneficial. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
once I was done, I was like, look, that's something that, like I said, I would definitely just use the Markdown and just call it a day, and I wouldn't worry about it too much. And
yeah.
just to quickly add, since I've been pressured on this live stream all the time about burn. So I made up my mind, kind of, where once I'm done with Mern, this is what I decided. So I'm going to make a 2, 3, maybe 4 hour kind of, maybe less, whatever, intro into Postgres. Like very basic, like, look, this is how you set up the table. These are the primary keys and yada, 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 yada. Then I'll showcase like small application how you can connect to Node. So how basically you set up basic REST API like CRUD
Yep,
API,
yep, yeah, yeah.
doing that, and then we'll build the same application as in Mern course, but just with Perl.
Postgres.
Yeah,
Yeah, Postgres. Yeah,
since you have been telling me how.
no, it's good. It's good.
No, no,
And
no.
then like if and then I'll be like, then you have to do some GraphQL, and then you have to, do something. But but it's funny how
No,
it
I'll
just
disagree with you
never
on
ends.
GraphQL in a sense, not because I want to do it a bit later, but no, this is the reason why I like these live streams because I like getting other people's input. Because if you sit on your little throne and think you're the smartest and best and blah blah blah, that it's kind of useless. Like this is you said it, Alex said it, and other people have been mentioning. So I'm like, look, like, why don't I just try it out? Because for me, the biggest one is like, how do you kind of get people up to speed as far as Postgres? But then I realized, well, why don't I do like a crash course, basically? Like
Yeah.
just something to get them. They already understand. They should understand some basics about the MongoDB, right? How to do it. And again, we're just talking about a little bit different commands and setups, but the idea is going to be exactly the same. So then I was like, you know what? Why don't I make a small intro and then call it a day, and then just build that application? So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. I'm excited. I love
So we'll see.
PostgreSQL. That's because people like, why do you like it so much? I'm like, because we use it at work. That's why I like it. It's like, what is the greatest thing? GraphQL. Why? Because we use it at work. So it's like I try to do the tech that I use at work, just so I get better at it.
Y-
Because the funniest story is I used to be the biggest proponent of like learning C sharp and ASP.NET because that's something I struggled with at my previous job. And so I wanted to get better at it quicker. But then once I'm like, oh, I don't even need to. There's so much jobs in the JavaScript world. I'm just like, JavaScript is better, you know?
Yeah, but when I looked at the like application, basically how it's gonna look like, I kind of coded like a small example for myself. I
Yeah.
noticed that as far as the server, again, we are talking about just running different command at that point. That's it.
Yeah.
Like let's say you have a get request to get all the jobs or whatever, right? The only difference is you're not using Mongoose, you're not using whatever command to get those jobs from the MongoDB, you're using SQL. Essentially, you're just saying, "Hey, get me jobs from that." Yeah, there's tiny difference though that you need to use Joy probably or some kind of validator because at least as far as I was checking, I don't know. Maybe somebody can add in the chat where. Like as far as validators for PostgreSQL, is it the same as with Mongoose, where they have a bunch of validators already set up in a database? Or you would need to
So,
check before the it comes into request.
and so you're not going to use Sequelize, or
Uh,
have you looked at Sequelize?
I would no. I don't know. I haven't
Yes,
thought about
I,
it.
I think it's like makes it a little bit easier.
So
It's just an
that is built on top of
ORM.
Postgres.
So like I haven't looked too much into it, but I've seen people that build Express node application and use
Uh,
Postgres. They'll use SQLize to make things easier to talk to the database because
oh,
it's ORM that makes so. like makes it a little bit
So it's
easier.
like a so it's like a
Yeah,
mongoose
it's
on
like
top.
Mongoose, but version of Postgres.
But
Yeah, so
okay, but let me ask, am I not gonna get slack that it's not for real or whatever?
I know,
Because
I just see a lot of people using SQLize. That's why I
okay,
asked.
so
Like to me,
I'll
like
check that
it's
one out.
perfect. Yeah, I mean to me, like I have no issue like going and writing like straight up queries. Uh, but like I know when we did, you know, like you have Mongoose. I know when we did ASP.NET, we had whatever the .NET version of that, and then I know people said great things about SQLize. So I was, you know,
I'll definitely check
thinking
that
of
one
checking
out.
it out. Yeah.
But I'm kind of we'll see.
I mean, for
Okay.
me, like seeing stuff done without it would probably be better because you get to see how to directly communicate with Postgres. So to me, that still makes sense. But in
Mm,
terms of like, you know, doing things easier, um,
okay. There's just in ecam just some error popped up that it said that it cannot make the local recording. Hopefully this is still live and it's gonna be live.
yeah, yeah, I think you'll be fine for
Okay.
life. And I might record to YouTube's land.
And by the way,
Yeah,
before I forget, sorry to interrupt you,
yeah, no, no,
because I
no.
know that I'll definitely forget at the end. Happy holidays to everybody. Happy
Yeah,
holidays
yeah, yeah,
to.
yeah.
I'll definitely text Paul and everything on whatever the Christmas, but yeah, to everyone, I'm probably not gonna see you. So happy holidays and Merry Christmas and all that cool stuff. So we have a quick one here from Jake. Can you use Sass with React? Yes, Jake, you can. I personally don't use it. I use style components, but yes, you can. That's it's. I'm not sure what's the latest setup though, as far as the Create React app, because pretty much every time they rolled out new version, it's easier and easier. So
Yeah,
I'm not familiar with
right.
that
Yeah.
one, but thank you, Tammy. Yes, we're still live. Awesome. Uh, blah blah blah.
Yeah, but like when you do style components, you could kind of use Sass in a way. That's because you could write nested CSS with style components.
Yeah, to me, like when I looked at a kind of sample of project, it looked like you can definitely do all of those things with styled components. I don't,
Yeah,
unless the company that I'm working for is using like the SaaS, and then that's why I have to use it. For my personal
yeah,
project, I don't see why. And again,
yeah,
like what my implementation is for styled components is not like for every like for most people. Let's say I don't make every smallest thing a styled component.
yep,
That's actually
yep.
not my preference. What I like to do is set up the basically the CSS,
The wrap. Yep.
yeah, for wrapper for the entire component. And then to tell you honestly, I don't even like to export those wrappers in a different files, but I had to do it for Mern because this was the case where like every time we start a new component, I didn't want to like copy and paste the code and add it to the same file. So I said, look, these are the wrapper files that are located in different directory and we just get it and blah blah blah. But normally, like while I'm developing, I wouldn't do that. I want to do a quick shout out to Dexter. He's actually from Cuba, and we had like I called him on Zoom and whatever, and we talked about what's coding like in Cuba. So that was pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah, he's been watching your live streams and everything, as well as mine. So yeah, big supporter over here. What else? What else? What else? We have the. Okay, let's start. I guess from the start. So we have Jake, we have Tammy, we have Alex. Um, Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Nice to see you. Congratulations. Yeah, everybody's congratulating you,
Oh,
Paul,
thanks.
on
You know,
hitting 4,000. How did you celebrate?
uh, I didn't. No, like it's funny because like this is what a nerd I am. Like I care about growing my YouTube channel, but it's just like I didn't even notice it until I was like honestly like 4,000 something because I was just like too busy being like, oh, like how do you do that thing in GraphQL? Like I wonder how do you do that or how do you do Strappy? So like I literally noticed that I hit 4,000 when I had like 4,030 or 35. Like it was just like a passing thing. I was like, oh, I guess I should share that because that's an accomplishment. It's kind of funny because for me, YouTube is a vehicle for me to get better as a developer. Although, like, obviously, I want to grow on YouTube as well. But Like I think more about development and how to be better developer and how to be better at my job than I do at what's the trick to like get better on YouTube, which is wrong if you want to grow like a YouTube channel. But at the same time, like my most important thing is how could I be better developer tomorrow and then a week from now and then 2 weeks from now. And so like we talked, like you were like, hey Paul, like do this for YouTube, and I totally agree with you because like it will help my YouTube channel grow to do all the things that normal people do that are on YouTube. But it's kind of funny because even though I want to, my passion for programming and my work and everything else kind of slows me down, and like I feel like sometimes I slack on the YouTube universe, but it is what it is.
For me, it's like this is. I think we also have talked about it already here, where
Yeah.
I don't. For me, it's definitely what you just said. Like putting those videos out there has made me like you get, because not all the time you just get hate, you also get constructive criticism. You also like before you publish anything, you need to spend more time on it to actually understand, so you don't publish something that doesn't make sense. And also just getting the to communicate with like-minded people. And this is what I'm noticing on your live streams, that you're getting already people who just come there to kind of hang out and chat with you. And this is for me way more important than like the sizes of the channel or whatever, because the like once you find those people along the way, they will be way more like communicating with them is going to be way
Yeah.
more beneficial to you, and grow and just learn from other people, then those numbers, to honestly, don't mean anything. It's
Yeah.
you know yeah, there's no magic behind them.
Yeah, for me, it's just like growing my social network. And obviously, I love everybody who's in the community and then chat. Like, I just recently converted my project from React Router 5 to React Router 6. Before even looking at
You did?
documentation, and I was able to do it because everybody in chat was helping me. Like, literally everybody
Nice.
had the answer before I did.
How did
And
you
I still
like?
like
How do you like?
it's good. I like it. There's some little minor differences, like with nested routes and stuff and private routes. I think it's not stupid the way they did it, but like it is
Really, you
stupid.
don't
And
like it?
like
Oh
like
wow.
when you do private, well, so private routes before, like so you can't pass something that's not a route. Like the route has to be the wrapper component, and then you have to use element to pass whatever you need to into it. You know what I mean? Like if you want to set up like a private route, like I used to just have a component called private route. Now you have that step where you have to have a route and then your element, and then you're passing your component private route into that route. So it's fine, it works, and I'm nitpicking. It just looks too ugly to me because now I have this weird nested component where I have a and it's literally based on like their docs that I saw. Like because when you have the routes and you put route has to be the child of routes. You know what I mean? You can't have a any other component.
So you're
That's the
upset.
wrapper component.
So you're upset about that nesting inside of that element prop?
Yeah, it's too ugly for me.
Okay, you're very picky person. I
No,
was
no, I
like,
mean, it's to be honest with you, it is perfectly fine. It's just like like before my components look line, like my route looked one line, one line, one line, one
no,
line, one
I
line.
see, I see
Now
what
my
you're
route
saying.
looks like one line, one line, one line, 4 lines. I'm like, mother good. But no, it's fine. It's actually really good. I like what they're doing. I
You,
like router 6.
but I like the functionality inside of it. I find it easier, like in protected
In
route
terms of
when it
like,
use.
yep,
Because
yep.
remember, they used to like pass in all the props and blah blah blah, blah. Like you kind of needed to destructure them and children, and
Yeah,
now it's
yeah,
you
yeah,
just
yeah,
get the
yeah. Now it's
children.
straightforward.
Look,
Yep.
if the user exists, awesome. Then
Yeah.
you go here. Then you go to the children. If not, then you kind of navigate them away, and that's it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
To
yeah,
me,
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
it's kind
Yeah.
of like
No,
that.
it's fine. I'm just it's causing YouTube drama where there shouldn't be a drama. Just get people. No, but it's good. It's good.
I
But the
think
point
I,
is,
I
it
think
works. It's great.
I think we
You
could
know.
cause a bigger drama if we can, if we would go down the road of like telling the channels that need to watch David Goggins videos because,
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah. A lot of. Oh my God. Sometimes. Oh
yeah.
God.
Okay,
Oh
so
God.
we
Yeah.
have one for you, Paul. Hello, Paul. Have you sent the application to Strappy?
No, no, not yet, not yet. I'm so busy at my current job right now, and like as much as like I do want to like learn about opportunities, like and work at Strappy, like I'm also the company that I work for is really good. They're very nice people, and if like right now I'm working a contract role and it's really going well. And if the product that I'm building blows up, like I'll just keep working for them. But I don't want to kind of try to do something at the same time as I'm in the midst of like building this thing, because it's like like if we were talking off stream, like I could work like at least 40 hours a week, so they're not trying to tell me to work more, but they're like, if you can, like please do so, because they want to keep this project moving. So like the bare minimum a week is like 40 hours, and then like there's more. And so I just want to stay focused on that. But yeah, that's
Yeah,
good.
no, this
But
is true. Yeah, it's very
yeah,
hard to get a hold of Paul during the week. I testify this, so I'm being very respectful towards the time, and that's
yeah,
why I really appreciate that he comes over here.
yeah, and then we are still using Strappy, so I'm learning a lot about Strappy, and that's great.
But on a serious note, do you think you'll send it or no? Or are you just
No,
kidding?
no, I will like no, no, I'm not kidding. I definitely like there's a couple of companies that I would not mind working for. Like Strappy is one of them because like I really believe like I mean you make fun of me like Strappy like as a joke, like all in good fun, but I really believe and stand behind the product. You know what I mean? And so like if I really like it and believe in it, like and stand behind the product and the project, I would love to work for the company because it's not going to be boring for me because like I enjoy it. Like another one would be like Versal and Next.js. That would be like a cool company to work for. And then obviously my current job right now, because like my current job right now, the biggest plus is that I can work whenever I want as long as I hit the milestones for the project and work the hours that I'm allocated to work during the week. So it's very flexible. And then another part of that job is I could work from anywhere in the world. So like I told you, like when I had this interview for Angular job which paid much more money, like to me it wasn't like it would have to be like a lot more money for me to take it, because the freedom and the environment that I work at and the nice people that I work with, to me it also has a price. So I'm much rather make less working where I know the people are the best and awesome, and obviously like there's opportunity to grow, where it's like, let me sell myself, make more money, but work at a place where I have to work at a specific time or specific location or deal with people that are just difficult to deal with. So, no, I really love the place I work for.
No,
And
I
if my
can
boss
definitely
is
attest.
watching,
Yeah, if
I'm
the
not
boss is
quitting.
watching, then
Yeah,
Paul is a very hard worker. But no, no, no. Paul definitely has a very, very cool job. We were talking about this off the screen, where I was saying to him that like a bunch of people that I know, especially when they're like, okay, that's not Paul's first job, but in general, like when they're starting out, they kind of either they need to work on very something niche, and they kind of grow a little bit frustrated because it's maybe not the freedom that they wanted. But like what's really cool with Paul, that he pretty much gets to build this entire application, and that for me is like the stuff that he gets to work on is very, very exciting, because you constantly you keep getting challenged and all that. And
yeah.
we actually have job from question from Jake about how many companies you have worked for, and then I have another one about drag and drop.
So, like, I'll tell you my quick history. So, my first development job was literally unpaid internship doing WordPress themes. Then that unpaid internship led to paid internship, and then that paid internship led to contract role, still working with WordPress and themes. But I really like React, so I kept studying and learning React on my own. And then, like at 39, I got my React job, which was right in when the pandemic started picking up, which was nice because when we went remote, that like I was actually able to keep my job. And that React job I took because like I needed experience, but it literally paid the same as when I worked at a supermarket, which was like 13.75 an hour. But I needed like I felt like I needed something where I could spend a good year, a year and a half building my experience. And then that job led to my current role where like I'm doing pretty good. So basically if you count my WordPress job, this is my third development job.
But the
Third
WordPress
development.
job was in thingy in the Connecticut, or no?
Yeah, I was in Connecticut. It's basically working for a marketing agency that did not only websites with WordPress, but also did like Facebook ads and Google ads and stuff like that. And I feel like if someone's like trying to break into the field but having maybe hard time going for some of these marketing companies that where they don't need you to be like super duper developer, they just need you to be able to customize some like themes with HTML and CSS, like I think it's like could be a good start for somebody. And I feel like, for me, that was just part of my journey and something I feel like I had to do to get experience on my resume because, I just said front end developer when I worked those WordPress jobs. And eventually they led. And speaking about jobs, the coolest thing, like this YouTube channel, I have a lot of different people that watch me, and sometimes like people connect with me on LinkedIn who found me through my YouTube channel, and I've been actually able to get interviews from people that I met on YouTube, which like blows my mind. And like another thing blows, because to me, like I feel like I'm a very new developer, and I don't hide the fact how difficult this is, and the struggle is real. And I do these live streams even though I make mistakes, and sometimes like I don't know what I'm talking about, because I want to get better and I want to grow, and I also want to showcase it's okay not to know something, as long as you're willing to
Mm,
attempt to figure it out, read the docs. And I
mm.
was like really surprised when some of the people that I watch, they're, like the one guy that watched me, he's been in the industry for over 37 years, and he's a CTO like for a company, and he's done development and coding. And to me, it's amazing. Why would somebody, with that experience, who obviously knows way more than I do, watch, like my channel where I'm like still growing. And that kind of shows like the power of YouTube, where you could connect with people that you normally wouldn't. And like literally, I was like, "Hey, are you hiring?" And he's like, "Yeah, after Christmas." I'm like, "Wow, that's interesting," because at least I could send a resume and start a conversation. And that's kind of like outside of like being a YouTuber, I guess. Like I'm not doing it for YouTube's sake, but I am still doing it from branding perspective and marketing myself as a developer to other people that normally would not hear about me, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, but this is where I need to add, and this is gonna turn into to compliment Paul episode. But this is like really what I think. It also comes down to the fact that like I remember in one of the times you said, "Oh, the reason why not you were kidding or whatever," but you were like, "Oh, because you felt sorry for me," and I always have said that that has nothing to do with that. The reason is because you basically are true to yourself, and this is what I always found about when you come on and creating content, instead of like you will copy some stuff from people, but the
Yep.
biggest like leap in your journey is going to be when you'll be like, look, this is what I do, this is how I present myself, this is where I'm going, and I'm not going to try to imitate anybody. This is just me, and this is what I'm doing. And then that way you will, like, when you start marching kind of to the sound of your
Yep.
own drums, that's when everything kind of just slows down. You're like, look, this is the content I'm providing, whether I'm getting 4,000 views or whether I'm getting 4 views, and people see through that. I don't know how, but they do. It's just
Yeah.
that's just the way it is, and that's why it's definitely. This is what I was saying in those live streams where you can clearly see that people are, let's use the hip word, digging. What you're doing, or like how you talk about stuff and all that, and that's what's really cool, because it's not fake. Because like there's a lot of this like fake stuff that's very just annoying, because it keeps repeating, because it
Yeah.
kind of gets success.
It's funny because Forrest Rhodes '08 says how to trigger Paul, just say Strappy sucks, which is not true. You could say Strappy sucks all day. What will trigger me if you say some of these YouTubers who talk about coding, who whine like little babies and who need like a good slapping once in a while, like that will trigger me. See, I'm already triggered, you know?
Yeah, and
But
and
yeah.
just to add, the reason why we agreed in the beginning, like before we were doing, like when I talked to Paul, I said, look, one thing I don't want to do, I don't want to cause any unnecessary, like just start these back and forths, for a simple reason, not because I want to collaborate with anybody, not because, but we kind of both agreed like that we are on the same page where like all like let's say all the people that I watch out like I don't watch YouTube, but all the like content that I listen to, they always did like what benefit does the person has if I'm gonna give you a list of all the people that I dislike on YouTube? And trust me, Paul knows behind camera there's quite a few.
There's a list. There's
But
a list. Yeah.
but what good does it do? None. I mean, you're not gonna get a job just because listening to me saying which person is fake. You need to figure that one out, like which one you think is fake and whatever. But that's what we kind of agreed on. But yes, there's like whatever the I mean, that there are quite a few channels that I'm like, I'm seriously don't understand where the benefit comes in, but they do exist, and yes, it's
So here's the thing, like, WWE and the drama that they have, or Desperate Housewives, it has a place and time. I just don't feel it's the right place and time for people who are looking to switch careers to get into a different developer
yep,
like job.
mm,
Like, they don't need to see that stuff. They need to
mm,
go straight to the point, stuff that
yep.
will help him, you know, get the job without the fluff, without the nonsense, and without the. I don't want to say people lie, but there's a lot of misleading, like information where people they want to make the field sound like it's either easier to get into or more exciting than it is, or like whatever you could like spin it in so many different ways. And I feel like people kind of don't get the real representation of what it's like, because I'll tell you this, a lot of developers I know that are really good at their job, they're not on YouTube. And some of them, like, who, and this is not like a true statement, but I just want to say, like, they have a joke. They're like, what do you call a failed developer? You call them a YouTuber, right? And they're joking, obviously. And so, like, the point is, I'm not saying that it's the truth or the case, because I'm on YouTube, you know what I mean? Like, but the point is that, there's a place and time, and the stuff that does well on YouTube, is not the stuff that, like, serious topics about programming, or at least the market is way smaller. Like you could find, someone like, I mean, was boss is pretty popular, but even he still doesn't have like a big YouTube
Actually,
channel. Like, I don't think.
I was gonna use this as an example why it's so skewed. Because I was exactly gonna say because yesterday I was just like I checked he has 139,000 subscribers. To me, he should have 5 million
At
easily,
least,
at
at
least,
least,
at
at
least,
least, at
right?
least.
And yet it's because okay he doesn't put out that much content or whatever, but it's also the fact that the content he puts it's so like it's not like hey just watch this and you'll get the
Yeah.
whatever 100,000 job. It's like okay like, how can I do this like very complex thing and everything. So no, I definitely agree with you on that. We have here this which drag and drop libraries for React do you guys recommend? It seemed a little complex like beautiful React DMD. I haven't used any, to tell honestly. I kind of, when I was making the course and when I make my project, I try to really like kind of stay away from libraries, if as much as possible. And I haven't dived into the yeah. What I've heard, drag and drop is complex, but trust me, like if you're gonna go the vanilla JS route, it's gonna be even way more complex.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
about you? Have you tried any of them?
Uh, like, only just a little bit for the basic, but we use like React Draggable, like a npm package, like a couple of jobs ago. But the interesting thing is, like, the way they used it. We could have like not used it. Like, it didn't really add that much value, I don't think. I mean, what do I know? But like, I feel like unless you're building a very specific application where you need to, like, it adds like actual functionality that allows users to have a better experience, then yeah, like, use like draggable like components. But if it doesn't like improve the application anyway, like, you could probably get away without using it. So I don't really use any myself. But now that we talked about it, I'm probably going to add some sort of draggable feature to my
No, no, but it
to
would be like what's the name of that application? You know when you move the completed to whatever
yeah, 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 like,
the
yeah, Trello.
yeah
Yeah.
Trello like for Trello
Yeah,
board
like,
that would be an
yeah,
awesome
that,
thing.
that that's like, I think that the only use case, I would say,
Yeah,
you know,
but
in my opinion. But
yeah, for me again, I just didn't like I haven't had like very cool project that I would want to do. And for me, again, just similarly to that MDX and everything, I kind of realized that like if you really got start going down to that niche, it's if that's not really what you want to do, like if you're not like 100% interested in how the drag and drop works, then it's kind of like you really end up wasting time. And I rather, let's say, spend time on SQL and whatever. I just think that that's a little bit more beneficial to me
Yeah,
at this point.
yeah, and I used to have this like issue, and I still have because I do care and want to know how they make it work. I do want to know how you make like a tree drop down component with, um, bajillion like children that if you check the parent, all the other ones check, like how to do all this like cool stuff. But a lot of times, like if you're working like by yourself, you have limited amount of time, and so you kind of have to figure out what is the most of the things that you have to learn that give the biggest bang for your time invested in that thing. And so you know like now I kind of have to pause myself, like, do I really need to know this one thing, or can I just trust that the npm package or the library I use is going to help me to move this project forward rather than trying to recreate the wheel from scratch. So
Tammy has a question about database, but I believe she mentioned PHP, Tammy, and I really don't know. Maybe I don't know whether how much Paul has worked with databases in PHP. Uh, but something about like a random number that will look for match in an auto increment DB field. But yeah, I'm
yeah,
not
it's been
sure.
forever since I used PHP. And I used it in context of like WordPress. So very rarely would I have to like write stuff that does anything to the database with PHP in the context of WordPress.
Do either of you guys have a good reference for course YouTube channel, whatever, for learning PHP with SQL? No, that's one of the problems that I think there are. Do you know any good Laravel courses or,
I
or
no, I haven't.
instructors?
No, I haven't really.
Because
Like
I
I
think that
gave
you
up
have
on.
better chance of getting like good Laravel like
Yeah,
instructor
yeah, I
whatever
think so.
than the actual PHP, because yeah, PHP is unfortunately, again, I spent like a week learning PHP, and
I took some like
it was
yeah,
already
like
then outdated already then. That was how
yeah,
many
there
years
might be
ago.
some outdated courses, but I like LinkedIn Learn had some good courses. I- it's kind of hard to find this because I feel like I don't know, I don't want to like PHP still has a like big use case and a lot of people use it, but I think it's not like popular to make tutorials about, so there's not really good like material out there, which is like unfair and unfortunate. But that's the case.
How to know if an MTM package is safe to use? There is like there's no 100% way to know that it's
Yeah.
safe to use. You can only like well, first thing that you can check how many people are using. If there's a big
Yep.
amount, then of course it's already a good sign that yeah, it's. But there's no, you don't. There. That's
Yeah.
why once in a while those security warnings or whatever pop up, because some stuff might go wrong. You don't, and this is another thing. I mean, of course you're not gonna remake like a massive library, but if you have like some little feature,
Yeah.
if that's the project that you kind of working on, I mean, it kind of makes sense to set up that functionality yourself.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. No, true. And there's like I guess when I look for npm packages to use, it's either like a problem that to solve it myself will take forever, and I will only go with a solution that is like the most popular up to date thing that you know based on reading reviews and stuff like that gets updated frequently and used by like big projects. Like I have a friend who works at a big company. Like I'll be like, are you guys using this? He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna use that too. Like date fns or whatever, that package for date stuff.
mm,
That's a good one. You can't go wrong with that one. um
mm. Yeah, no, I
yeah.
mean, like for me, it's like formatting. I don't know, like I like for formatting moment.js, right? So
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah.
like that. I mean,
And
I'm
Moment.js isn't bad either. I used to like it until my friend told me use data finesse, and I was like, all
but
right,
that did so that's essential. Yeah, I think I looked.
they're
I don't
both good.
remember. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
they're both
remember.
good. They're both good.
So, yeah. So we have a. Let's say we are 1 hour in, and I want to finish on this note since we always like to stay up. What are the learning steps for a developer? Okay. What are the learning steps for React as a vanilla JS developer? The same as for like any other developer. I really don't understand the question. Uh, just again, for me, best answer would be going through the my course, not because it's the best course ever, but it's because that's how I would structure my learning. But actually, the question that I wanted to go with is this one. Paul is gonna like this because we'll go back to David Goggins. Uh, do you have any advice how to stay motivated while learning? I love your live streams. Great job, guys. Thank you. For me, the biggest motivation was I don't want to. Like the previous jobs that I had, I hated it. So I was willing to learn to go to school 6 years to be an electrical engineer, and I can damn sure I can code for 80 hours a week just so I don't have to go back to construction. What about you?
Yeah, no, I think it's hard. Like you definitely have to like the thing that you're doing, and there's got to be some excitement. But like I think motivation, it's something that sometimes you have, but a lot of times you don't. And so for me, like even though how excited I am about Strappy or working building projects and stuff like that, there are days where I just don't want to do anything sometimes. Like I'm just being honest with you guys. I don't want to say like everything is great, but in on those days, I basically will say, well, this is how you feel. Like it's perfectly fine because your feelings are like the weather. So put a timer on for 2 3 hour or 2 hours and do programming for 2 hours. Just go through the motion, go through the process. Um, and then what I found out, like at some point, you just get into a groove when you get back to work. And I'm kind of like um that doesn't apply just to personal projects. It could be like work related stuff, or like I guess like this ability to hold focus on a single task. So I used to do meditation, and I kind of want to get back into it because I find out that one of the hardest things, and I don't know if it's the case for you, or I hear for a lot of people, is just staying focused on one task without constant distractions. And so for me, that's like I don't struggle with motivation. I struggle with like I don't want to do this, but like I have to do this, and I don't want to break the daily routine of doing this. And so like I'll just do the thing, even though my heart might not be into it. It's like I don't know. It's a terrible example. It's like when I used to work with kids, like the kids like, I don't like taking the trash out. I'm like, your parents don't like taking the trash out, but they still have to do it. So there is a part in your job or your learning or your life where you just have to do the thing, you know? And you on certain days you're going to be excited about it, and then there'll be some days where you're not excited about it, but you still have to do the thing. And that's what kept me making progress through my learning journey, is to think like that, because 80% of the time it's always fun and great, but there's times where I just like I just want to quit. I don't want to do this, but I just still do it. And it sounds weird, but like I think just force yourself to do work consistently over time to make progress. Because I think if you wait for motivation, like you could wait for 10 years and never be motivated to like change your life. And like I know it's like a very pessimistic answer, but like again, I just want to be honest how I feel about things.
Yeah, no, for me, like 3 points. As far as distractions, what I've noticed is what works for me is scheduling around those distractions. So let's say, what is my distraction? It's usually the questions coming in on YouTube or on Udemy. So what I like to do is every morning I start. I basically answer the questions and I'm done. That's it. I don't open it. I don't. But like I don't like get this like, oh, somebody asked something, so now I need to run back or whatever. That's it. That can wait till next day. Just get it done, get it out of the way and whatever. And then so that definitely is for me as far as the structure of the day. And then it's easier because you don't get those like the pings or whatever. So unless
Yeah.
I go myself to the Twitters and whatever, then everything is fine. Now after that, as far as motivation, yeah, I mean there are days like for me, especially when it comes to recording, I think sometimes it's really like it just gets to you, like it's just I'm really excited about the part where like the building the project, but as
Do
far
the
as
code, yeah.
recording, because then you like pretty much repeating, and that is, but yeah, that doesn't change for me. Like I just said before, I always, when I'm like in these like, oh, oh, it's in the same, like now I have to record for, let's say, the third week or whatever, I always thinking back in my head, would I rather be doing what I was doing before? No. Okay, so get back to work and stop whining.
Right, right, right.
I know it sounds like, oh well, get yourself together, but this is really what I say. There's nothing else like magic that I can say to myself. Look, I have two options. Either I do this or I need to go back to what I was doing, and I definitely don't want to do that. So
Yeah, that's that Eastern Bloc motivation where you have something that's so like negative and disheartening that you just want to do whatever you're doing rather than go back to where you were. And that's definitely a good motivation. Like I know, like in US, because I used to work with kids a lot, everybody's like positive reinforcement. But like for me being Russian, like there is no positive reinforcement if you're like a Russian kid. It's all negative reinforcement. It's like you get the stick if you don't do this. But the like all joking aside, you're gonna feel like I even see like in your face when you talk about recording stuff, like how much it like pains you. And but then you still do it, because if you didn't, you wouldn't have your courses, you wouldn't have this, you wouldn't be here. And so like you have to kind of, yeah, you like use my previous job, whatever, like I don't want to go back to it, and you do the thing that you don't like as much. But regardless how you felt about your previous job, like I feel like we all do something that we much rather not do, but we have to do it. And I think that's something that people have to understand, that it's normal. Because I think sometimes people think like, oh, Paul's like really excited about coding, it's easy for him because he likes it, or he's always happy and he's always like willing to do the work. And that's just not true. Like there's times like 20% of the time where I have to be like, oh, I gotta do this thing which I'd rather not do right now, but you still have to do it. And that's kind of like the quote that I like that you said a while ago, is that people say like, oh, it's going to take me a year, or it's going to take me 2 years, or it's going to take me whatever, insert timeline here. But it's like, what is your life going to be if you don't do those things? You're going to still be stuck in the same place, and you're not going to make any progress in anything. So just do the work and see where it takes you.
there's actually two more things that I like to, not only the job for sure, the old job is definitely a motivator for me. The But the other two things that I like, first one I read, we talked about this author off the screen one time with you as well. He has this standing on the shoulder of the Titans or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Tim Ferriss.
Yeah, Tim Ferriss. In his one of his books, there was an interview with I believe she was running marathons, or she was CrossFit or whatever. And I liked it. Like she had that quote. She's like, "I always like to train in the rain because I know that my competitors don't." And that was for me. Like when I heard that, I'm like, "Wow, that is so like." And that's why every time when I have some kind of, let's say, even not going somewhere, right? I don't feel like it. I'm like, but wait a minute. This is the time when, look, like if somebody else is not doing, I am doing it. I
Yeah.
am like, I'm going through those motions. I'm going through that was the thing. And also there was one more about working out that pretty much similar to what just Paul said. If you're going to be working out only when you're motivated, that's going to happen once in a blue moon. Like actual, like the process of getting better is working through those pains. That's when you like grow that character. Again, easier to say than done, but that's what helps me to kind of put me in the focus. Anything
Yeah,
to
I
add?
like what Simple Balling says. Geez, what was so bad about John's previous job? Is electrical engineering so terrible?
No, 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 no,
Uh,
no. You misunderstood what I'm saying. I was willing to go to, and I was willing to go to electrical engineering because of the construction that I was working. Not electrical engineering. Electrical engineering was fine. It just wasn't. I think coding is way more fun. No, I if like I could go back technically and start applying. I mean, I would need to finish a degree because I switched the degrees, but no, I'm talking about construction. I'm not talking about electrical engineering. I did. quite a few years in construction, and I have no desire to go back.
What's funny, like I love construction and I love like masonry and work and I like all that other stuff. And sometimes like I see people like walking on the roof. I'm like, I want to do that again. But the reason I don't is I
No,
had a close call where I almost fell off a roof on a third story building and I was like, nope, I'm done. I'm not doing this again. Um,
no, no. For
but
me, it
no,
has like on a
yeah,
personal note, it has gone so bad that I like I at home. My wife knows that I'm not
yeah,
gonna paint the wall anymore. That's it. Like I've
yeah,
I've
yeah, yeah,
done
yeah,
that for
yeah.
so many years. Like as far as construction, that no, I'll rather like pay somebody and just do the actual job that I'm doing. Then I'm not one of those people who like enjoy the housework. No, not happening. Anyway, I
Yeah,
think
like
we're
one.
sorry.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
We're
yeah.
like
No, that's fine.
diving
I
into like
think we're good.
yeah.
I think just for like, just the last final thing. Like I've never met anybody who accomplished anything of value where they haven't dealt with some sort of suffering or disliking something or not feeling motivated. So like anybody who's trying to find like a road with the least amount of bumps, like I don't think it exists. Like I think it's going to be in no matter what you guys decide to do. And so, pick something that you mostly like, I guess, or whatever, enjoy doing, and just don't worry about, can I do this, can I get the job, can I do whatever, but just put in the work that it takes to learn the knowledge. Like for me, like when I started to learn to code, I never thought about like, but what if you don't get a job? What if like this doesn't happen? What if that doesn't happen? I just kept just reading, studying, watching tutorials, kept going. And, like weirdly, I don't know, maybe I'm weird. Like I never thought about why, if I fail, I just felt like, oh, if you mess up, that means you're getting closer to, the next whatever win or the next step or whatever. Yeah, it's like, and so I just kept going. But maybe it's not. Depends on everybody's risk
No,
tolerance. Anyway,
this
I'm
one
like mumbling
actually,
now.
I agree with you 100%. Where, pretty much like everything else, but where I always also looked at it this way, where it also comes back to okay, what are you gonna do those 2 3 years anyway?
Yeah, yeah,
So like I know that it sounds very cheesy and whatever. You know that get rich or die trying or whatever. I'm not talking about getting rich, but at least you know what? If you are like go out at least on your own terms, right? So at least say,
yeah,
you know what, I tried. I did my
yeah,
best effort. That's why I always say, look, if you can honestly look in the mirror and say, look, I tried. It just didn't work. And there have
yeah,
been some things that just didn't work out for me. I tried something and it just like I look like and say, look, we tried this, I tried that, and it just didn't work out. Just call it a day, just
yeah,
and but at least you can say that I think because the biggest regret you'll have eventually is the things you didn't do. And I know again another cheesy line, but like I really do believe this one where when I'm looking at like some older people in my life that I see, there's two things that they regret. They didn't spend enough time with the family and they didn't do the things that like they didn't try the things that they wanted to do, and that kind of always is like, you know what, at least try. At least like
yeah.
no one can guarantee you a job, but at least you can say, you know what, I gave that a coding a shot. I maybe built a site and I at least tried doing that.
So here's a funny story. So I was going to, like, I dropped out of university like more times than I could count. But one of the attempts of going back, like, I go back and I was already starting my martial art business, but I was still at the beginning. And I'm going through this networking class, and my teacher literally goes to me like, Paul, like, you already like working on your own, you're working building this business, it's like you're gonna be like so much more successful, just go all in and do it. So I literally dropped out of school again just to pursue my business. And then like it's been like 15 years after that, like kind of like have a great job, have whatever, I get hurt, a bunch of life stuff happens. And then part of me is like, man, if I never listened to that teacher, like I would have stayed in school and would have like gotten my degree. But at the same time, like to the point is you never know how your life is going to be, And so like thinking like, oh, I should have done this in the past, or should have done that in the past, it's just gonna make you worry about issues that you can't control. It's just like wherever you are now, whatever you decide to do, start moving in that direction. Because if I like never like like for me, like it still blows my mind. I went from teaching martial arts and punching people in the face to being a developer. Like that still doesn't register in my head. And the only reason I think I was able to do this is because I didn't listen to anybody who's telling me you can't do it. And I didn't even listen to myself being like, in your past, you haven't done the things that even make sense for you to even do this job. I just kept focusing on each step forward. And let me tell you, it hasn't been like smooth sailing, because that creates a lot of stress on your like family relationship, especially when you're like going from two different jobs where you were making a certain amount of money and now you're making less money because you're starting from the beginning. So there's always challenges and obstacles, but I still feel like, you know, people, like David Goggins says, you just gotta, just look up some David Goggins quotes, guys.
Yep, yep. No,
And
David
I,
Goggins is really good.
so
Really
I'll
good.
just, like, I know this is not like, I don't know if it's like, when I was at university, like I was like a terrible student, never liked studying. And I went to the library one day, like just to whatever, get in trouble. And I saw a guy, he literally didn't even have a wheelchair. It was like this bed, and he was missing most of his body, and he could only communicate like using this computer. And it was just such a like crazy thing, because I looked at him, I was like, oh my god, like this guy, like I felt bad, like because I have two arms, I have two legs, he didn't. Like I'm able to do stuff, I'm so capable, and here I am complaining about my life and not putting in the effort, where this guy, with whatever he has, he's making the best of it and learning. And after that day, like I literally came to this conclusion. This is like if people say like, are there rules that Paul lives by? uh, and sometimes I'm hypocritical, because my fiance will tell you I complain all the time. But when I complain, it's celebration of like the fact that you're able to complain. That means if you're able to complain, that means life is good. Like that means you could do something about your life to change it. You know what I mean? And so like that's like my rule is like, if I like able to complain, don't complain, just do the thing that you need to do to make the change or make it work, you know. So but
I have a quick
this,
question for you, Paul. Do you have a Discord
yeah,
channel or no?
I did. And then I so bad on Discord because I just never went on it. And so I was like, I need to make my own private community. So I working on something that I have that eventually is going to be like a thing, like, buy me coffee type of deal. So like
Mm,
for $2.99 a month, you could join this private community, have access to like the project that we're going to build. That's going to be on top of the project I'm building free on YouTube, because I always want to do some content that's always available. So if people don't want to donate money, they're not missing out much. But people that want to support my content, like I'm going to make it like a private community, where you'll have access to me like with questions, and also we're going to build like a project together or something like that.
mm, mm. Yeah, no,
So
the
yeah,
the Alex and Tammy and everybody talks about here about creating one and everything. So I was just making
yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, they're actually, some of those guys are already on it, because
Mm, mm,
I'm so
mm,
lazy, I can't figure out how to charge people money. So I've been telling people, if they send me an email at codingafter30@gmail.com, and they send me a link to either their GitHub or a project they built,
mm,
I might, like, I will add them to the community. Like I don't want anybody, like if someone sends me like something like, that, like no projects, no nothing, they're really not making an effort, like I like sadly don't add them to the community, because I want someone who's actually gonna give
mm,
and do the work and
mm, mm.
participate, so yeah, but it is
All
what it
right,
is.
we're like
That is good.
120. Like I
Jesus
really
Christ,
holding up Paul. He
my
needs to.
fault, my
Yeah,
fault,
he no
my fault.
no no no. He needs to go to sleep. Yeah. Thank you very much to everyone who showed up. Thank you to Paul for showing up and being good sport. And yes, we will change to normal time soon. Like happy holidays to everybody. Spend time with your
Happy
family.
holidays.
Enjoy life. And you want to sound off?
Yeah, thanks everybody. Thank you, John. I hope everybody has happy holidays, whatever you guys celebrate, and stay safe. And hope all the best things happen to you guys next week and the year after, and all that other great stuff. And as always, thanks to you, John. I really love our conversations. I learn a lot. You know, it's good. So thank you.
Sounds good. Okay. See you, everyone. See you next Monday.